Speaking of messages, Andrew, what are we talking about today?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you one thing. We've been on the road a bit, but while we've been gone, it's been happening in Florida. And I just want to bring to everybody's attention, for those who have not yet heard, how the, quote, state of free Florida is doing under an authoritarian wannabe dictator. More to come.
I want to talk about something that I brought up before over the summer when a lot of GOP governors were basically saying F those kids and not trying to feed kids through the school year. I want to talk about two key pieces of policy that keep coming up on the campaign trail, and that is childcare and school lunch. And I just want to walk people through what that policy looks like and prove that the GOP does not care about children.
You know, this podcast actually should be called I Believe the Children Are Our Future, ? On that same point that Tiff was just raising and what you just raised about abortion, Andrew, there's a whole other issue in the Senate. Republicans can't figure out if they are pro-choice, pro-life, pro-mess. They're voting against IVF. We're going to talk about that, as well as some shady-ish that surprise or not, Sarah Huckabee Sanders had to say about our dear Madam Vice President.
This is juicy, y'all.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders was the former White House press secretary who was terrible at that job, if I say so myself. And now she is the Republican governor of Arkansas. And, you know, this goes to my point about the South is red until it ain't. I want somebody to unseat Sarah Huckabee Sanders whenever this chick is up.
She's the perfect example of failing upwards.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media.
Welcome
home, y'all. This is episode 41 of Native Land Pod, where we give it to you straight, no chaser, and break down all things politics and culture. I am joined by my beautiful and lovely co-hosts, Angela Rye and Andrew Gillum, and I am, of course, Tiffany Cross. What's going on, guys?
What's up, friend? How are you?
Did you hear Andrew sound like
I don't know why that Freddy Krueger
possessed.
I was trying to make it a little nicer. You guys
Hey,
very
so
dark.
Angela, if your waist is around your neck,
anyway,
your waist?
Don't worry, I got on drawers and pants.
Thank you. And you look cute,
look good, friend.
You look very cute.
Look good. And the pockets on your back.
I had to wear this because it's getting colder, and I didn't wear it at the DNC because it was a little too casual.
It's cute.
And I have to look hip hop today.
Looks good.
There's breaking news, but I'm going to be doing something for BET Hip Hop Awards.
Oh, nice.
What?
Oh, why are you there? I didn't even know BET Awards still happen.
Hip Hop Awards. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
But
former BET employees.
I know. And I didn't know that the VMAs were still a thing. And then I saw it, and it was like news out of the VMA. So clearly.
Now she might actually, I was about to say, she might AARP you out of this. Like, I don't know what just happened.
Keep going, Tiff. Keep talking about it.
They still do them awards.
Keep talking about it.
I didn't know, guys.
Carry on.
I didn't know.
Carry on.
Can I do something a little, because I want to make sure that we get to everybody's question. I would like to get into the viewer questions right away to kick off the show with that. What do y'all think?
Okay.
We don't have
Let's go.
Okay.
No. Tell the people what they're looking for, though.
It was a question about do people listen to what we say? I think we should kick it off with that one. So
can we do that after we talk about CBC real quick?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, okay, because the last time y'all heard from us was CBC, so false alarm.
Congressional Black Caucus.
Yes, the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's annual legislative conference, which takes place in D.C. every year. It's one of the premier Black conferences that happens in the country. And we had a fab time. Angela, so many people loved your dress. It was very, I don't know, it looked very African to me.
Yeah, it was. And of course, you would put me on the spot to be able to name this designer. Her first name is Rosie. I believe it's Osseline.
Okay.
The designer's last name. I'm going to fact check myself really quickly. But in the meantime, you know what else is important about that?
I know. I started with fashion, but that's probably not what you guys wanted to reflect on.
I love it. You both look great.
Rosie Osseline, Assoulin. And I was dressed by one of our favorites, which is Albright Fashion Library.
We love Albrights.
We do. And that's all the plug we're doing until you guys give us a deeper discount
Cliff, put your
on their
clothes on
clothes.
you?
Huh?
Cliff.
No, not Cliff Albright with Black Voters Matter. Albright Fashion Library.
Who is this person?
Just ignore Andrew.
I don't know the fashion houses.
Fashion Library.
Andrew, you look dapper in your suit because you clearly want some attention to tell us you look good.
No, my shirt.
He wants to change the laws.
From The Collective.
Yeah,
I love
and
that.
Speaking of The Collective, we had Stephanie Brown James and Quentin James on the podcast. If you guys haven't tuned in yet, We are thrilled to have been joined by so many of our friends. I feel like every year ALC is a big family reunion. You get to catch up with some folks you haven't seen all year, some folks who only come in town for that time of the year. Let me tell you what set us apart. When we were at the DNC, there were a lot of other media outlets there. There were a lot of folks taking the stage, other podcasts. We were the only and the premiere and the exclusive show right before the Phoenix Awards dinner, which I believe you guys are going to end up making history for two reasons. One is I believe that will be Joe Biden's last public appearance in a speech format to a large audience before this election.
Wow.
I believe also that will be one of the final the last time Kamala Harris goes before the CBC Foundation as a vice president. I think the next time she comes, she will be the president of the United States of America. The CBC Foundation Phoenix Awards dinner is a big, big deal in Black politics, and we wanted to make sure you all got a front row seat of that experience. We spoke to everyone from Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett to Fani Willis, who, of course, we've talked quite a bit about on this podcast. She was fantastic. We talked to Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, the chairperson of the foundation, Terry Sewell, so many folks. And I got to do that side by side with my sister and my brother. And we were looking fly. It was different. We weren't in our denim and Tiff will be in green or red or orange or pink or whatever.
All the colors of the rainbow.
She will not be in denim most days. But that day, we was fly. If I'm
looking to wear my denim bodysuit that I didn't get to wear at DNC.
Good. She says she is going to wear a denim outfit.
I don't have denim. I don't have denim.
You can do what I did, friend. I just went online,
I've gone.
You guys, I would like to be the stylist of the denim. I'm good at picking out clothes.
I sent you something on Instagram for you to get, and you were like, get it. I'm like, girl, this is a cute outfit for you. But you were talking about the Phoenix Awards dinner. Can we play the clip? We were all on the call a few minutes ago, and Vice President Harris, President-elect Harris, I say, she spoke at the Phoenix Awards dinner, as Angela was just saying. Every year the president comes and speaks to the dinner when it's a Democratic president, obviously. I don't think Trump has ever addressed this
I don't think Trump even knows what the CBC is.
He doesn't. Can you imagine if he walked on that stage? I don't think it would be
I think everybody would walk out.
Yeah.
I think it
wouldn't even be
It would be a
booing.
no for me.
It'd be like
Joe Biden actually won the Lifetime Achievement Award at this dinner as well, which is why he spoke and then
I love that.
Yeah. Okay, let's play this clip. Andrew is an institutionalist, like Joe Biden.
Although I was never a big fan of
no matter
POTUS, but
Okay.
Which POTUS?
This one.
But
let's talk about that on the other side, because I want to see this beautiful clip of Vice President Kamala Harris. Let's roll the tape, Nick.
Let me just say about Joe Biden, I have... Hello to all my divine nine brothers and sisters and my sorors. And to all my HBCU brothers and sisters.
Call them out. Name check.
I love that moment. I love that moment.
It sort of brought her into the room differently, right? Like she sort of... That laugh kind of, she's like, yeah, they out here. They in here. They in here. I'm in
they
here
literally started ski-weeding so loud. Like she was like, y'all can have a seat. And they were like, after this message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was so cool. Speaking of messages, Andrew, what are we talking about today?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you one thing. We've been on the road a bit, but while we've been gone, it's been happening in Florida. And I just want to bring to everybody's attention, for those who have not yet heard, how the, quote, state of free Florida is doing under an authoritarian wannabe dictator. More to come.
Okay.
You want to go? Tell us what you want to talk about, Angela. My bad.
Nope, you go.
Okay. I want to talk about something that I brought up before over this summer when a lot of GOP governors were basically saying F those kids and not trying to feed kids during the school year. I want to talk about two key pieces of policy that keep coming up on the campaign trail, and that is childcare and school lunch. And I just want to walk people through what that policy looks like and prove that the GOP does not care about children.
Not once they're born.
You know,
Right.
this
Not even
podcast actually should be called "I Believe the Children Are Our Future?" ? Because
Or
on that
do you?
same right, on that same point that Tiff was just raising, and what you just raised about abortion, Andrew, there's a whole other issue in the Senate. Republicans can't figure out if they are pro-choice, pro-life, pro-mess. They're voting
Pro-family.
against IVF. We're going to talk about that, as well as some shady-ish that, surprise or not, Sarah Huckabee Sanders had to say about our dear Madam Vice President.
This is juicy, y'all.
Sarah
It's a lot in
Huckabee
here.
Sanders was the former White House press secretary who was terrible at that job, if I say so myself. And now she is the
Horrible.
Republican governor of Arkansas. And there was a black man running against her. And I had high hopes for it. And, you know, this goes to my point about the South is red until it ain't. I want somebody to unseat Sarah Huckabee Sanders whenever this chick
She's
is
the
up.
perfect example of failing upwards.
Right.
Come on.
She has the last name of her father, who also failed upwards. And
As the
she
governor.
continues to fail up. Andrew, I can't imagine how frustrating that is to see some
Well,
of
I
these
know
fools.
the truth is all of us know this well. Our listeners know it well. You know it well. Tiff, you got it well. Heck, Michelle Obama put it perfectly. When we are confronting the mountain in our lives, we don't have an escalator to take us to the top.
Yeah.
All right, we got to climb that thing.
Escalator
you know,
broke as hell.
Yeah.
Hell, it was shit.
We
Didn't
climbing,
exist for me.
right.
Yeah.
For
We
most
climbing
of
the
us,
mountain
right?
with ankle weights.
Wait. The rough side of the,
The
mountain.
rough side coming up.
I'm
coming
going
up.
On the rough side of the mountain. And what you doing?
I'm doing my
My
best to make
it easy.
I hope you're doing your
Amen.
best.
Amen.
hope
And the
you're
church
doing your
said
best.
amen.
Wait,
Amen.
not Andrew still preaching the song.
Right,
Okay, go
right.
ahead, Andrew.
I love
okay,
it.
so
Who going
Andrew,
first?
have we
Oh, no.
sufficiently told the what?
I was about to say who's going first, but I can we do the viewer question now, or we want to do a topic
Yeah,
first?
I want to make sure we sufficiently covered all the topics before we get cussed out when we're not recording by our
I can
dear
confirm
brother.
for you that we have not, because we like to talk about lots of stuff. So,
Other
So
stuff
what
will
else are
come
we
up.
supposed to talk about?
Well, no, it'll come
well,
up. I
this
think
is the agendaed stuff. So let's get at it. Let's
okay.
get it.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
the question, the viewer question that we were trying to get to. Let's hear it.
What's up, Native Land? This is Craig Knight again from the 6 Degrees podcast. First, I just want to give you guys props for a job well done at the DNC. And here's my question. I was thinking about your analysis and your commentary on all things Kamala Harris as far as her campaign is concerned. And a lot of those things that you say, especially regarding like how she handles interviews and what she should say in the debate, I mean, all those things make a lot of sense to me. So being that you guys have more of a direct line to those figures in politics with all of your experience, would it be naive of me to think that some of those things might be getting through? And that's my question. Like, as a loyal listener, it would be really comforting to me to know that some of the things that you say on your show would actually get through to these candidates, and they might actually fashion or craft their strategies according to some of the things that you guys say, because I think that it's very valuable.
I love that
Like that.
question. I love it. I have thoughts on that, but
Please.
Same.
yeah. Oh, Angela, you tell some of your thoughts.
I can wait because I'm just going to start name dropping.
Oh,
people.
ladies.
No, it's not going to be negative.
Okay.
It's not
No,
gonna be
I
negative.
just want
It's gonna be
somebody to
shut up.
answer. That's it. That's
Okay,
all.
well, I'll answer.
Yeah.
Andrew, you rude. I will answer.
So rude. People get to see it though because they're like, leave Andrew alone.
they are
Andrew
on
ain't
us.
no touch
I'm
by
feeling
Angel.
froggy
It's
today,
Negro,
a little
okay?
froggy
Andrew
over
goes
here.
in, he
All
froggy,
time.
he leap, he rabbit, he bounce,
believe the
he
hype,
kangaroo,
guys.
he hops,
It's not
he
true.
be swinging
Wow,
all the
friend,
time,
hello.
on air, off air,
Yes.
on camera, off camera.
But those
he be
older
going
black
hard in
Yes,
the
women,
and
paint.
as
they
we
love
were.
Andrew,
As we
and they
were.
be
As
looking
we
at us
were.
with scoff, like,
Andrew
how dare you
alone.
talk to
As we
Andrew
were.
like that?
And
Anyway.
why you answer one of these questions from Craig?
Well,
'Cause
I
me
just
and Craig
wanted to let
waiting.
him know what it really was, because you ain't what you're not about to do is act like we be going pew pew pew, and he don't be shooting back. He be
Okay.
shooting back.
To this man's question, I want to say a couple things. One, I appreciate the question because I would say, yes, there are certainly people, I can say definitively, yes, there are certain people in the administration who listen to this podcast, on the campaign who listen to this podcast routinely. The devil trying to keep me quiet.
Don't let him do it. Not today, Satan. Not today.
Drink your water. I don't even have no water.
Probably I just off this flight, my throat dry. The other thing I want to say, this could be why they try to keep me quiet. Because the other thing I want to say, there is a misunderstanding, I'll say, a misconception that a lot of people are watching certain cable news shows in the morning. And that is why some people have this claim to fame. Because you think, oh, this big branded platform and this cable news platform, they must be getting millions of viewers every day. And that is not true. Some of these shows are getting 500,000 viewers, 300,000 viewers, which is not a lot. Cable news, the primetime shows are in the millions, right? But their claim to fame is, because the administration listens to us, they tune in. Well, as the administration changes, as demographics of the country and the administration changes, they're going to start listening to other people. So I would say for a lot of folks who, spend resources in these shows, they're going to have to rethink their entire platforms. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to that day coming. And a lot of people express viewpoints that sometimes run contrary to the rising majority of this country. So I look forward when that space is disrupted. Lastly, I'll close with this. I just want to be clear that the three of us do very different things. And so I have so much respect for what Andrew and Angela do. Andrew was a policy maker, as an elected official. Angela worked in policy. So there are times where Angela has great advice for the campaign, great campaign strategy, great policy points. As a journalist, I'm not really here to say, here's the policy that the administration should do. But I do want to make sure that our audience understands what that policy is and how it impacts you, what the GOP is pushing and how it might impact you. So I am not necessarily here to say, hey, Vice President Harris, here's how you should perform in the debate. But I do like to weigh in on what my brother and my sister are saying, that is a good idea. I like it. But that's just not my skill set. If I happen to say something that resonates, great, but it's not necessarily my agenda. But I do appreciate sharing the platform with folks who are better at that kind of thing than I am.
I just want to fact check Tiff really quick here.
On the facts.
Yeah. So
I
actually,
don't have an opinion until I do.
Yeah.
I have opinions, but I'm not trying to say this is what y'all should do.
I'm
no,
just saying.
but I believe that that's not what you're trying to do now. But also, Tiff has worked on a political campaign and advised the candidate and prepped him for a debate. So
Nick
I just want to
Mosby,
fact check.
who ran for mayor of Baltimore.
Yes, thank you for helping to fact check yourself as well. She has worked in policy as well. She worked for NEA as well.
Yeah,
she worked for BT.
Can I just say what I did? I did outreach in communities of color. So my
That's
role
fine,
there,
but you
I wanted
also
to advocate
someone for debate.
So you know
and
how to talk to people.
Yes, are a great
and convince
political
them to do something.
strategist, and she also has brilliant ideas in multiple fields, not just in media. So now that fact check is done,
I was
will
fishing
answer
for compliments, and I got it, and it worked. So
Well,
thank
there
you.
it is.
Well,
Pull the poll
and
up.
honestly,
Pull the
these
poll
weren't
up.
even compliments. It's just I'm not gonna let you lie to me today, not to the listeners.
I took
But
it as a compliment.
yes, okay, compliments,
pull the
sis.
poll
We
up.
love you. Do we get hearts? I wonder will they show up? You think so?
No.
Oh, okay. But
Okay.
they just know that the love is through the screen.
Got it.
However, what I want to say here is this. I do, and I want to clarify this from the very beginning. People went in on us at the very beginning like we were going to be
the
coming.
grievance people?
I don't know who they were, but from the very beginning.
We were the grievance people.
Oh, we were?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't hear that particular terminology. And maybe I did and I forgot. Y'all know how my memory's set up. It ain't good. But here's the thing. What was interesting to me is there were a lot of folks who were like, you just mad that you never even been to the White House.
That's dumb.
You just mad that you never been invited to the White House. You just mad that you never talked to her. This is somebody who literally called us to say congratulations when we launched the podcast, talking about Kamala Harris. And so I'm just like, yeah, that's not really it. So what we do have are not just a direct line to her, but also to the team around President Biden, also to the team around MVP Harris. We have direct lines on the political side, the policy front, the comm side, and we talk to these folks regularly. And if we're asked for advice, we offer it. We have offered advice. We've offered advice about doing interviews. We've offered advice about campaign tactics. We've offered advice ad nauseum. I am happy, y'all, because I'm starting to see some of the things that we've suggested on this show and off the show implemented. I think it's great. She is going to be doing shows with people who are not necessarily friendly to her campaign. I think that's great. That is what she needs to grow her base. This is a place where Tiff, Andrew, and I fight often. She needs to grow her base, and I think that she's got the opportunity to do that. So that's my short answer. Because I had to share my time with fact-checking Tiff. I can't believe our resident journalist tried to get on here and tell a story. Actually, Tiffany, in 1997.
Right. But the other thing is that you can answer this, Craig, for yourself, which is you do your own potting, you influence people.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that in the stream of thought and conversation that maybe some things that you hear us banter back and forth about or debate about may have shaped some of your own thinking. Yeah. So I think the biggest and highest recommender for the show is the fact that if you're on the listening side of this, just know that you're in good company with people who have abilities to make change and shifts at every level of policy and government. But also you are in company with people who are just curious about what they may not know and spend a lot of time with from day to day, week to week. And this gets to be their little short dosage of it, week in and week out, we hope. But we also want to recruit and attract more people. So continue to spread the word. Let folks know what this is and what a special experience it is. I know it's special for the three of us. I know it because I feel it and we communicate about it. But it's made that much greater when we're in airports and at restaurants and at conventions and y'all come up like we done been fam, forever. Yeah. And we haven't personally met, but because the environment is one of family, we are family. So thanks for the question, man, and good luck on the pod.
Sometimes people don't even say hi. They just shout out, welcome home, y'all.
Welcome home.
You know what? And it ain't going to be no home if we actually don't take this break. Hopefully on the other side of that, Tiff,
yes,
we can get into why you said the Republicans talking about F them kids.
Oh, yeah. Love it. Okay.
One of the things that we can do is make it easier for family models to choose, or for families to choose whatever model they want, right? So one of the ways that you might be able to relieve a little bit of pressure on people who are paying so much for daycare is make it so that maybe like grandma or grandpa wants to help out a little bit more, or maybe there's an aunt or uncle that wants to help out a little bit more. If that happens, you relieve some of the pressure on all the resources that we're spending in daycare. Now, you talk about just daycare. Let's say you don't have somebody who can provide that extra set of hands. What we've got to do is actually empower people to get trained in the skills that they need for the 21st century. We've got a lot of people who love kids, who would love to take care of kids, but they can't, either because they don't have access to the education that they need, or maybe more importantly, because the state government says you're not allowed to take care of children unless you have some ridiculous certification that has nothing to do with taking care of kids. So empower people to get the skills they need. Don't force every early child care specialist to go and get a 6-year college degree where they've got a whole lot of debt and Americans are much poorer because they're paying out the wazoo for daycare. Empower working families, empower people who want to do these things for a living, and that's what we got to do.
So, one, we don't care for days, we care for children.
Yes.
Two, this man talking about 6 years of degrees. I don't know where that exists, but and it probably wasn't evident for him. But you do realize that brain development over the course of human life, 90% of it is developed between the ages of 0 and 5.
Yes.
0 and 5.
Well,
our children are learning the word gap of 30,000 words, which exist at kindergarten, exists because of the kids who are, I guess, going what you're talking about, to daycare where they care for the days over the children, versus those who go to childcare centers and early learning development centers where they are learning, being taught, frankly, social emotional skills that will teach them not to, for instance, I don't know, do any of the ish you do from day in and day out. But I know you probably had a different aim on that, Tiff. Everything he said triggered me as a father of 3 children who was highly selective about where my kids went during the day in that early period. But this is why we can't have good things, because people like him are sitting in the U.S. Senate and wants to be U.S. vice president, probably president, who doesn't understand the critical years of early learning and child development.
Well, let me just talk through the policy, because that's a good point that you made as a father. And we all know, because neither Angela and I have kids, so we have no right to vote or no investment in the country or no right to speak. Oh, yeah, that's
right. You got cats and dogs.
Right, exactly. But I think it's clear, that J.D. Vance is a jackass and a dumbass. But I want to point out what he said that just doesn't make sense. And this is a huge issue on the campaign trail, and there's a good reason why, because nearly 23 million children under the age of 5, to Andrew's just point, who are in their developmental years, live in households where both parents work. So 71% of households which both parents work. More than half of all children, particularly those of low and middle income, this is predominantly Latino and Black children, live in a childcare desert. And that's defined as an area where there are too few licensed slots for the number of children who need care. So J.D. Vance's solution is to, first of all, presume that there is a grandparent who can help out, or presume that it's a grandparent who the grandparent might actually be raising the kid. So there is literally nobody else. And then if you can't do that, to lower the standard of childcare. The other issue is the crunch got worse last fall as $24 billion in pandemic-era funding for childcare expired. This was another GOP move. Childcare is a $60 billion industry. And so the annual cost of caring for a single child, depending on the type, the provider type, the age, and the county, it can require up to 20% of a family's income, which is obviously a huge problem. And so when you talk about this party that claims to care for children, I have to say they do not care for children. Not only do they not care for childcare, they also do not care if these children eat. I want to play a soundbite from a state senator out of Minnesota, and this is relevant because, of course, this is Vice President-elect Walz's neck of the woods. Take a listen.
Mr. President, I have yet to meet a person in Minnesota that is hungry. Yet today. I have yet to meet a person in Minnesota that says they don't have access to enough food to eat. Now, I should say that hunger is a relative term, Mr. President. You know, I had a cereal bar for breakfast. I guess I'm hungry now. That, to some, might be maybe that's the definition of the bill. I don't know. I didn't see a definition of hunger in the bill, Mr. President. But I think most reasonable people suggest hunger means you don't have enough to eat in order to provide for metabolism and growth.
All right, so another jackass.
Do they just play stupid on TV? Or
No, these are heartless people. So again, I think it's important to understand the numbers here. One, you cannot learn if you're a child and you're hungry. So there are teachers who keep apples on their desk, bananas, just because if a child comes in this classroom, you need sustenance in order to learn. In 2022, over 30 million students, that's over 60% of all public school students, received a free or reduced lunch. When I was in school, I received a free or reduced lunch. The branch of government that handles this is the Department of Agriculture. The USDA administers the school lunch. And nearly 100,000 public and nonprofit private schools participate in the program. Children living in poverty. So that includes not only children living in poverty, but foster care students, migrant educational programs. They participate. The percentage of students receiving free or reduced lunch is often used how to measure policy around poverty in this country. How many families are actually living in poverty? Now, I want to say what poverty looks like, because that's a really important piece. Poverty is defined as of January 2023. The threshold is $29,960 a year. You can be denied a school lunch if you make 50 cents more than that. It doesn't matter. It's a hard cutoff. The individual poverty threshold is $14,891. So you imagine if, first of all, what you can and cannot do with that money. If you are feeding a family of 4 making $50,000, making $60,000, twice that, you are having a hard time at the grocery store. The Census Bureau estimated in the latest census that nearly 12%, that's 38 million people, lived at or below the poverty line. The higher percentages of those in poverty, Latino, Black, American Indian, Alaskan Native, Pacific Islander students. These are the students who disproportionately attended high poverty schools. Who attended low poverty schools? White students. So my point is, they don't care about you. They do not care about you in the womb. They do not care about you here on earth. So every time the news media plays these sound bites, these ridiculous sound bites from J.D. Vance, you heard Donald Trump clumsily stutter through a response on childcare that was nonsensical. I would love for them to follow up with the statistics and the data and who exactly is impacted by these policies. every time they talk about being what they call pro-life, which is really anti-choice, I would love for them to talk specifically about the policy and how it impacts people. They do not care about children. They do not care about life.
And by the way, they don't care about white poor children either, which are the majority of families who are receiving help from the government. They are careless, which means, the saying, I couldn't care less. That dude right there, he couldn't care less about what poverty looks like. He cannot conceptualize the fact that he said, I had a breakfast bar and I'm hungry. And no way correlates to the child whose last decent meal was Friday afternoon at school and won't have another one until breakfast on Monday morning when he gets back to school.
Right.
That's what poverty and hunger looks like in poor families all around the country, white, black, brown, and everything in the middle between and betwixt. All right. So and this dude's a policymaker,
right?
As is J.D. Vance. And the best they can come up with on public policy for how it is that we, one, raise and educate our children is to lower the standards of educating them rather than, scholarship people into early childhood education, learning, degree programs, which are not 6 years, by the way. In many cases, they're not any years. They're certifications for a lot of people, by the way. Learn something. College degrees are not required in nowhere near the majority of early learning centers. But what is required is care, love, tenderness, some skills so that you can impart upon kids so that they're ready for education. I mean, they're not, it's troubling to have to talk about this, Tiff, because you and I both have lived experiences that I think make us really, really close for comfort. And that's probably why I feel very pricked by this whole thing. It was my first concept of learning how poor I really was.
Right.
Because the classes I was in, it was with all white students in accelerated programming. But then I went to lunch and they ciphered off to go sit under the tree. And I got in the lunch line.
Right.
And then I looked around and I saw that everybody in the lunch line was like me.
Yeah.
Looked like me.
Yeah.
That was my introduction. And why in the hell are we penalizing children for choices that they didn't get to make? They didn't ask to be born into the families that they're in. They didn't ask for their parents to be paid much less than what they're worth. Right? They didn't ask for any of that. And they didn't ask to be hungry.
In some municipalities, Andrew, these students are collecting debt. So they're literally getting a debt from the school system. They're being threatened that they can't graduate, that they can't get their grades because they owe a percentage of what they've been eating at lunch. An 8-year-old can't.
You get a meal.
And then there are these cute little human interest stories on local news like, oh, this 4th grader raised $7,000 to pay off the debt for her lunchroom classmates. And we celebrate that. And it's like, that is actually horrific. That a child is doing more for her fellow students than this grown jackass, J.D. Vance, who is making these ridiculous policy recommendations, and that state senator who is heartless. Don't talk to me about being, quote unquote, pro-life. You are not pro-life. You don't give a damn about children. You give a damn about policy and control. And for everybody who votes for this ticket, shame on you. For every person who leaves comments and is out there talking about Trump is for the people and I'm going for Trump and they're pro-life and blah, 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 all the awful things you all say, you ought to be embarrassed and shamed. We are pulling the hood off, pun intended, on these types of policies and how it impacts our communities. No more.
Nope.
I would like to jump in here,
Please.
especially because what we've spent some time talking about is the types of punishment that ensues after the child is born.
Yeah.
One of the things that they have argued that they are pushing is to protect the fetus more than anything else. And Kamala Harris had something to say on this. This ad is called Monster. Let's roll that.
I've never slept a full night in my entire life. I was 5 years old when my stepfather abused me for the first time. I just felt like I was alone on a planet with a monster. I was 12 when he impregnated me. I just remember thinking, I have to get out of my skin. I can't be me right now. Like, this can't be it. I didn't know what to do. I was a child. I didn't know what it meant to be pregnant at all. But I had options. Because Donald Trump overturned Roe v. Wade, girls and women all over the country have lost the right to choose, even for rape or incest. Donald Trump did this. He took away our freedom.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Wow.
I wanted to play that because I think too often in this reproductive justice debate, we have these conversations without any real context, without the anecdotes that matter. We talk about rape and incest, and most times progressive politicians are raising them on the floor, in the House and Senate in their states, in their city council meetings, on the House floor and the Senate in Congress. And I think we need to put a face on it. Mm-hmm. So when you think about who they force to have children, and then they punish them once they arrive, and then the folks who have struggles with fertility, they want to punish more. So just yesterday, Senator Tammy Duckworth had introduced in June the Right to IVF Act. IVF is the In Vitro Fertilization Act. So the Right to In Vitro Fertilization Act. And there were only 2 Republican senators who voted in favor of this bill. 9 Republican senators who are up for election this year: John Barrasso, Marsha Blackburn, Kevin Kramer, I'm naming these names, Ted Cruz, Deb Fisher, Josh Hawley, Pete Ricketts, Rick Scott, and Roger Wicker all voted against. J.D. Vance was too booked and busy trying to find family daycare or childcare that he didn't show up to vote. And I think that all of that is important, especially when we contextualize it with the fact that we're going to force you, young 12-year-old, to have this child. Yeah. Person who can't afford to have children, we're going to penalize you for having the child that you can't afford, and we're not going to give you any support in ensuring that you can raise this child that we forced you to have. And then don't have fertility problems, because if you have fertility problems, we're not going to give you any medical care or attention for that. And then on top of that, when or if you can't have children, or God forbid you choose not to have children, we going to drag you for filth at a campaign rally. Let's roll this clip from Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Come on. You can walk into a room like this where people cheer when you step onto the stage, and you might think for a second that you're kind of special. Then you go home and your kids remind you very quickly you're actually not that big of a deal. So my kids keep me humble. Unfortunately, Kamala Harris doesn't have anything keeping her humble.
Wow. I want to say some bad words.
I really do, Tiff. And I think it's crazy because when I watched that the first time, I wasn't emotional. I was just angry. Now, like, knowing my own IVF journey and what I've been through.
Yes. Yeah.
And to be childless and it's not by choice. It's just mean. It's really mean. And I just wish that when they go through this journey of what it means to birth people, in this country, how much of a struggle it is, how much of a blind eye they turn to Black maternal health or maternal health, period. The blind eye they turn to the kids. Tiff, you laid out all the data. Andrew, you laid out the data, the personal experience, you and Tiff's own connection as children to this issue. We have got to have a more holistic, nonpartisan approach to policy making for children and people who desire to have children. And you should not shame people who did not, who chose not, or who cannot have kids.
That's right.
That should not be the pathway. So I wanted to double down in all of that and make sure we have a holistic perspective on what that is like in this country and how they're using it as a campaign talking point to jab this woman who has literally sacrificed her life for this country at every level of state government and federal government.
And speaking of sacrificing your life, I just want to point out that for Senator Tammy Duckworth, she's a Democratic senator from Illinois, replaced Senator Barack Obama in the Senate. This is personal for her. She served this country, lost her limb, so she's in a wheelchair, and that was the only way that she could conceive children with her husband is through IVF. If you ask some of these Republican senators, what is IVF? Can you talk us through that? They cannot do it. And there have been reporters to ask them, and they literally have no idea. That half-wit Tommy Tuberville, he was another person who he didn't even know what it was. I think it's kind of rich that Sarah Huckabee Sanders was in Flint, Michigan, giving this talk, these insults, where there are children still without clean drinking water. Where the was your concern for those kids then? I'm sorry, you guys. I'm just so disgusted by these people. I'm so tired of the media we don't want to offend them, so let's give them airtime and let's be careful how we make them feel. I don't give a shit how these people feel. Like, I want to say something to their face. I want to look at them in their face and tell them how awful they are, how subhuman they are, how they don't give a damn about kids. And I want them to know somebody sees you. The news media might play nice, but we see you. We know exactly who you are. And the
hope the
subtext
people
of
in the
that,
state see them.
Precisely. And the subtext of that, I think, is, brave of Angela to share her journey. But the subtext of that comment was this little black girl need to be humble when she's walking around our white country.
Yes.
And we hear that shit too. And I hope I get the opportunity to share a stage or a space with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, because I would love to look her in her face and dare her to match me on her best day intellectually. She will fall short every time.
It would give Augustine.
Her insecurity was screaming in that. Once you get past, as Angela has already pointed out, just the meme. You know how you see some fights and then they just go to, and you're like, well, that was just mean. That's unnecessary. But guess what? As the book once said, cruelty is the point with these people.
Right. Adam
Cruelty is the point. There is no other point to it other than cruelty.
And she also, by intention, did not pronounce her name right again.
No, right.
No,
exactly.
No, I don't even. They're so below. They're so below. Yeah. And I hate that in the state of Arkansas, where we are well represented as part of the population in that state.
Yeah.
That's who they have to look to as their damn governor.
Frank Scott.
I feel the same way about Florida.
Right.
Yes.
I want to talk about that. We got to take a quick break, but on the other side, I want to talk about that. And can we just talk really quick when we come back about this this quote unquote assassination attempt that they're talking about that didn't happen in Florida?
We may have to mini pod that one.
Yeah. It's okay. Maybe that might be a mini pod, but on the other side of this break, we're going to get into it.
Welcome back, y'all. We are mad. We were in the break and we're just talking about everybody's feeling very heated. And the reason why is because for a lot of us, this is our real lives.
Mm-hmm. How about that?
This is our life's journey. My wife has been open about this, but 4 miscarriages. 4 miscarriages every time, anticipating this is going to be the one that will work, up until the point where you get to the point where I don't want to be pregnant anymore. I don't want her pregnant. Just miss that part. Because this hurts too much, right? So this is our lives that they are out here being jocular about. They can make jokes about, come up with puns about, miss us on the policy about, because they're not really trying to solve real problems. And in Florida, Ron DeSantis is the governor down here, y'all. I didn't choose him. But has taken this women's reproductive rights, effort to a whole new level. So already he and the Republican legislature have banned abortions in this state after 6 weeks. Shall I also say, i.e., most women don't know they're pregnant at 6 weeks, unless you are intentionally anticipating and therefore you're checking the clock. But this is before, 6 weeks is before many women even know that they are pregnant, and has made it illegal in the state of Florida to pursue an abortion after said point. There is a constitutional amendment, a citizens amendment, that is being pushed by the smart people, well-thinking people, actual people who live in the state and care about what happens here in Florida, who are pushing, obviously, to demolish this 6-week abortion ban and reestablish basically Roe as part of the law of the land here in the state of Florida via the Florida Constitution. So the governor, well, I don't need to summarize. Let's hear the governor's thoughts about what this is.
But let me just say this about Amendment 4, because yes, you have had fraudulent stuff with the signatures. I think that's been verified. To what extent, we'll see. But the whole thing is built on fraud. If you read that amendment, they don't define any of the terms that are in the amendment. Not one definition is written into that amendment. But the reality is this whole thing is not what it seems. This is all built on deception, and they're running commercials that are just totally lies, saying there's no exception, saying there's somehow just normal health care. First of all, if a doctor says they can't provide health care, they're committing malpractice, because there's nothing in Florida law that would say that. So you can't go and just try to have this whole thing be a big deception.
His whole governorship is based on a big deception. And by the way, y'all, the terms that he wants to be defined are like trimester. that people don't know when they go into the ballot box that this is what we aren't fools. They may have been foolish in electing you, Ron DeSantis, but we're not fools in the state of Florida. What this all-knowing, all-encompassing governor has done is he has decided to put the state police, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, on duty to go and visit the households of people who have signed this amendment. Signatures that were accepted as having been official and verifiable signatures. He is sending law enforcement to their doorsteps to ask them if they signed this amendment. Was there some fraud possibly going on? He showed up at one Floridian's house and was met with a relative, then tells that relative that they're looking for this other relative who might be being defrauded because his name appeared on a ballot initiative to repeal the 6-week abortion ban in the state of Florida. That relative then gets the real relative on the phone, the person the man's actually looking for, and that person then confirms, yeah, I was at a grocery store, I was in the parking lot, yeah, I signed it, that's me. But what would have happened had they shown up at a household where this was not a place, a supportive environment for this young man to have gone and signed a petition to say X, Y, and Z?
Right.
If you're law enforcement, why wouldn't you be speaking to the person directly? Why are you spreading their business across, and you have no idea what penalties could then ensue as a result of what it is you are doing? Y'all, let me make this plain. The supervisor of elections of the 67 counties in Florida are the ones who verify whether or not a signature is legit or not. At that stage, they then make a decision comparing that person's signature to the voter rolls to ensure that they are the same. If there's a question about whether they are the same or not, that petition is rejected. Doesn't even go to the state. So what they did is they took the petitions that came to the state, reached out to a couple of counties, may I add, almost all of them Democratic counties, and said, send us 36,000 petitions that you think might be fraudulent, and that way we can investigate. They're investigating legitimized, validated signatures. The governor of the state of Florida says that the amendment is not real. People can be healthy and have healthy pregnancies. This is that and the third. I mean, just bull. Talk to Candy Miller in Georgia.
Right.
The mother of 3 who had health conditions significant enough in her life. Thank you to the doctors who said if you carry this pregnancy, it could be so risky that you could be losing your life.
Yeah.
What does she do? She decides not to go to future doctor's visits. She orders pills off the internet. She takes those pills, and as a result of not having flushed the complete pregnancy out, contracted sepsis, hospitalized, and died.
And I just want to
say, direct result of the legislation that this man's pushing and that Republicans are pushing all over the country. People are losing their lives. This woman is caring for 3 children. She isn't heartless. She's not gutless. Yeah. She's not running away from anything. She's preserving her life so she can be there to raise her 3 goddamn kids.
It's Crystal. I just want to say it's Crystal Galloway. Crystal Galloway.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I knew. I just want to make sure we get her name.
Is also another. Candy Miller is one example.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. My bad.
But it's all. The point is, guess what? There are names that we cannot call, faces we won't recognize, who are going through this battle everywhere. You have made our environments, our lives more hostile. The governor of Florida declares this the free state of Florida. He's the Gestapo. He's an authoritarian wannabe. And it's important that we call out people like Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Ron DeSantis, because all these people have designs on higher office so they can take their shenanigans, not just on the state level, but to the federal level. And we have to be on guard for this, y'all. The Republicans, I suggested that we call this show, This Isn't Normal. I actually directly it was, this shit ain't normal.
Yeah.
And it's important to say what's not normal because they're so out of pocket every day.
Every day.
That it's hard to sort of, what's up, what's down, what's in between. They have topsy-turvied what is normal, what is default. The reason why the word default exists is so that we don't have to explain it. Everybody experiences it. That's why it's the default condition. What is default is no longer default anymore.
Yeah.
It's whatever they are feeling and what they want to do at that moment, at that time, y'all. It's insane. And Tiffany and Angela, I know why y'all feel like we're going crazy. I know I feel it. I feel it especially this week because of the trove of insult, and not just that, but impact that what they're doing. Kamala Harris put it well. She said kids were going to school for picture day.
Yeah.
And because of a lie, call it what it is, a lie by J.D. Vance, the state's senator in Ohio, and his running mate, trolling chief, Donald Trump, these kids had to be evacuated. And the stories get much worse, y'all. I know y'all have seen them, but this is what they're doing. This is what they want us to turn the country over to.
Well, it gets much worse, especially when it comes to Black women. Black women in particular are about 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy complications than white women. Andrew, I'm so sorry for interrupting you with incorrect information. But I do, because I said Crystal Galloway, and that's actually not accurate. There are countless stories of Black women who have faced dire pregnancy related complications. And Crystal Anderson was one in Kansas. Crystal Galloway is in your neck of the woods in Florida. Christine Fields in New York. Women in Texas and Louisiana have been denied treatment for life-threatening ectopic pregnancies. ProPublica has identified numerous women who died after they couldn't access legal abortions and timely medical care. And ProPublica said even among the women they identified, there are most certainly others. These people are not pro-life. We have to stop. The media has to stop calling them pro-life.
Yes.
We have to stop calling them pro-life. There is nothing pro-life about any of this at all.
None of it.
Angela, how do you feel about, I want you to weigh in here, but there was another viewer question, and I want to make sure that we get to it. So
I do too.
Okay, go for it.
Hey, Native Land Pod. My name is Robin, and I'm from Portland, Oregon. I'm one of your absolute biggest fans and allies. I share and elevate your content whenever I can, and I watched you every day of the DNC, and you guys were on point. I wanted to ask you a question. Why isn't the Kamala Harris-Waltz team coming out with big ideas, big populist ideas that would help just the common person like a janitor sweeping up at the end of the night stop in his tracks and say, hey, I want that. Some of my ideas are capping around healthcare, capping premium to no more than 5% of your monthly incomes, capping deductibles at $3,000, out-of-pocket expenses at $5,000, and do this by creating a public option to make the Affordable Care Act really affordable. And then for voting rights, I think she should come out with something like, we're going to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, for God's sakes, and abolish the Electoral College and make DC a state. How about that? And then for the economy, maybe cap interest rates at 4.5%. Everybody would love that. Regulate utilities and give free solar panels to folks to reduce energy bills. Okay, well, I hope you know how much I love you, and I will be watching everything you do. Bye.
I love that.
Thank you, Robin. I love that too.
Robin.
You know, I want to say here, without getting too much into it, because I think Andrew correctly challenged me on this. I did an interview recently with a presidential candidate that I don't need to name. You know, we talked about wish list politics. And what I think is fascinating about what Robin raised here are there are some things that she raised that literally have been on agendas since the 60s. When the Congressional Black Caucus was founded, before they were actually founded, they sent over 61 recommendations to President Nixon. Included in the recommendations to President Nixon were issues around healthcare and DC statehood, along with so many other things: housing, home affordability, access for small and Black businesses, all of these things. In addition to that, in 1972, so a year after their founding, there was the National Black Political Convention where there was another Black agenda. Those same things were on there. When you look at the Black Futures Lab agenda that was developed as a result of the census, Black Census 2020 and then Black Census 2022, those things are parts of the agenda. When you go to KamalaHarris.com and look at the platform they have rolled out, affordable health care is on there. Affordable home ownership is on there. Childcare tax credits. See, I didn't say daycare, Andrew, is on there. Creating relief for small businesses, because Kamala has talked about being raised by in addition to her mom, a small business owner in her community. There are a number of these things that are on here. Why didn't she say ban electoral college? I gotta believe it's because it will take a supermajority of Congress to do that, or state conventions. We are going to actually talk about abolishing the electoral college on an upcoming mini pod. But I will just say that we have to be mindful of, I believe, like selling pipe dreams to people. I think you have to tell folks, this is my idea. In a perfect world, this is what I want. These are the things that it would take to get here. You call your senator, you call your member of Congress to help me get there. But in order for us to get there, it's all hands on deck, especially in the face of a Supreme Court that'll grant Donald Trump immunity, but try to dismantle Obamacare.
Right.
A Supreme Court that would eviscerate Roe versus Wade through Dobbs, but at the same time say Shelby versus Holder can eviscerate the Voting Rights Act.
And
so
give
we
a
have
right to a company over a person.
Yes, and also turn a blind eye to Clarence Thomas being flued out like the hoe he is. So all of that, or I'm sorry, before I said hoochie, hoochie's nicer. So that's the thing. He's a hoe. Okay, so that's the thing, right? We have to be mindful of these things and how we get there. I want all the same things. I want a ceasefire. I want a free Palestine. I want them to stop fighting everywhere. I want America to stop spending money on nuclear weapons. I mean, all of these things. We're talking about $55 billion on nuclear weapons. And yet and still here we are needing some type of negotiation with the Congress that feels like it's being held hostage by a party that has no interest in actually evolving or advancing the people, but rather only fattening the pockets of their friends because that's the trust funds. Anyway, y'all see where I'm going.
No, you're right. I mean,
I'm filibustering.
I take slight difference only in that.
Slight difference.
Well, slight difference in the sense that
I don't mind. We be different all the time.
Well, of course, but I'm just saying. I was being polite, and that I think it is really important for institutions to be held accountable by folks who sit at these, politics might call it extremes, but at the outer layers of creativity, the outer layers of possibility, the space of imagination. I remember my teacher telling me, Andrew, you need to read more fiction because the real world is dragging you down. I'm reading quotables on stories. You need more fiction. That's where innovation and creativity lie, right? And so the beauty of, I think, people who like Robin and others who come with these ideas, again, that are bold and ferocious, is that if we can build a constituency that then demands that, right? Remember the Tea Party. They weren't everybody.
Yeah.
But they were a large enough group within the Republican Party to pull that whole goddamn party into hell right with them.
Yeah.
And that's what they'd been until Trump, right? So I think we should demand those things, should fight for them. We absolutely should go out and vote for Kamala and drag her and every Democrat we can to the furthest possibility of, the furthest extent of possibility that is possible. Right? That maybe even unimaginable where we sit today. Free lunch for every kid, 0 to 12th grade.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be their concern. Whatever that is, because it may get us to a negotiating table that gets us a portion of.
And I want to just offer some clarity to this. I did not say that we can't have it. I said I want to be clear.
No, you talked about the agenda and where it's come from.
Clear about how we get there. I brought up those other agendas because we've been asking for it for too long, but the demands have gone unanswered. I'm just saying make sure that in our ask, like we want this on a platform, here's how we get here so we manage expectations. People end up really disappointed because they didn't know that it took an act of Congress, or that if you did do an executive action and the Supreme Court overturned it, a la student loan debt, right? Like that can actually happen. If you do something bold and progressive, normally it gets undermined by the Supreme Court.
I think that's so important, the way you laid that out, Angela, because a lot of people don't know. And I love that you were like, go to her website because her policy agenda is up there. But in terms, and thank you, Robin, for tuning in and offering your question. I think they are introducing.
And her ideas.
Yes,
I love her ideas.
Right. She has like ideas about it. And I think there are some big ideas. The first time home buyer program that Vice President Harris introduced on the trail, $25,000 tax credit as a shortage of available homes to keep prices high under an economic plan that she outlined in August. She pitched tax breaks for home buyers who build starter homes and even those who rehabilitate older housing stock. I mean, that helps with things like blight in the country. Those are big ideas. You talked about the tax credit, and I know that's a big thing for you, Andrew, but $6,000 ain't nothing to sneeze at for a lot of folks.
Not at all.
The taxes on tips being eliminated. Now, I will acknowledge this is an area where she and 45 agree. This was a policy that yes, this was something that he introduced. Well, you'll correct me. But my understanding is he did introduce this, that he would eliminate tax on tips for workers. From everything I've read and from sound bites I've seen, my understanding was that he introduced that. She did
as an idea,
not as a policy. Exactly.
Right,
Something that he said on the trail. Out-of-pocket drug costs. She would cap that at $2,000 a year for everyone. Insulin pays. My mother is diabetic. Insulin copay. She would cap it at $35 a month. That's a big idea. Healthcare. When she ran for president in 2019, she proposed a 6-month paid family medical leave. That's a very big idea. That is a very ambitious policy. The United States is a handful of nations who doesn't have that policy. As senator, she co-sponsored the Medicaid for All bill. Of course, Senator Bernie Sanders introduced that, but she supported it. She has not been touting that since becoming the nominee, but what she has said is that she's focused on expanding access to reproductive rights and lowering prescription drug costs. So that's something to consider. I do want to just point out the National Party platform. I'm not a Democrat, but I vote with Democrats. But I'm not a talking head for the party, just to be clear. Right. But the DNC's platform supports Medicaid expansion and pushes Congress to allow millions to use coverage similar to Medicaid, even in states that haven't expanded the program. So again, to Angela's point, some of these programs are a part of an agenda. They do exist somewhere, but it would take an act of Congress to enact them. And that's why those down ballot races matter. And that's why there is no such thing as an off election year. Is it time for another break?
It's definitely time for a break, and hopefully we can break right on to a mini pod, but carry on.
Oh, but we have one more question. Did we take all the viewer questions?
Oh, yeah, we do have another question.
Okay,
Can I just say real quick before we get to the last viewer question, and that is big difference between the two plans is that Trump's system sets it up so that basically big corporations can reclassify their workers, pay nothing to them, and then get a write-off for those workers and allow their taxes to be paid, which is why Kamala compares it with minimum wage increase, base minimum wage increase, and no taxes on tips. And there's some other differences too, but I wanted to at least get in one.
No, I think that's important. I'm glad you did and clarify for the people who keep saying they have the same. Okay, on the other side of this break, we'll take a viewer question.
All right, everybody, welcome home again. We are almost to the close of our show, but before we go, you guys, I really had hoped we would talk about in this episode Who Shot Ya, Donald Trump edition, and what happened on his golf course, or what didn't happen on the golf course. And I also, and I mean, no jokes aside, it was a serious, issue.
It's a joke because they made it a joke.
Just facts.
The media made it a joke.
The part that's a joke certainly is them blaming this ramped up rhetoric on Democrats, and then the retort being why nobody shot at Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. So I definitely want to get into that and talk about the dangers of rhetoric. We see it with the Haitian migrants. Some of the things they're experiencing, it's very clear that when they say something targeting a group of people, even our friends, even us, Tiff and Andrew, we know what the repercussions are of those words. There's violence and death threats on the other side of that. So I want to talk about that on the mini pod if there are no objections.
Oh, we're going to do that as a mini pod.
I was hoping so because we already added in.
Well, the mini pods drop every Monday, and I don't know that people know that we actually do these mini pods. I mean, a lot of y'all are watching, but I think some people say, I didn't even know it was about a mini pod. So yeah, I love that for a mini pod idea. So you'll be able to catch that every Monday, our mini pods. I love it.
Well, that's very good. And then at the meantime, we can have our little calls to action. Mine is going to be very self-serving, and it comes from my bias of working on and growing up on Capitol Hill. I started the podcast with this, and I'm gonna end with it because it's the most wonderful time of the year for me. Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Annual Legislative Conference. We were the pre-show. Please make sure you tune in. We had some really, really, really dope interviews. I'm so proud of us, and we was cute too. So at least go back and check out them outfits. Them outfits. That's my call to action. Check out our CBCF podcast from this past Saturday.
Mine's easy.
Stay on the mic.
Check out my boy's book. If you are looking for something to read and you want to know what you can do
put it in front of your face.
Politics.
Yeah, put it in front of your face.
our good brother Sean Pittman. Shout out. That's so
Congrats,
nice.
Sean.
Good job, Andrew.
Sean Pittman, who served as my finance chair, the first Black person to be a finance chair for a gubernatorial campaign in the history of the state of Florida. We can raise money too. Also raised the largest amount that any candidate running for governor has raised. And he has written a book around how it is that you, come up with some strategies right where you are. Disaffected, as many of us often are. So if you're looking for some ways to, make this election really meaningful by finding some ideas that you can do and bring into practice on your own where you are, check it out, y'all. It's a great read, and let me know what you think.
My CTA is, I've probably given it before, but I'll give it again. Diversify your news diet. I have started watching
Fox.
No, definitely not Fox. No, but I watch BBC News in the morning. I also watch something, it comes on PBS, and it's NHK Newsline. And it's really about news that impacts Asia. But they talk about like all kind of things that you just don't hear in Western media. I also will watch Christiane Amanpour. She has a show on PBS. Yes, and I swear I find like I'm so much smarter when I'm not watching the echo chambers of our foolishness. And
at least we think so.
Well, I feel more informed. I shouldn't say smarter. I feel more informed. I feel like, wow, I had no idea, because they talk about things that are happening here in America, but also things from a global perspective. But you also realize how what happens here in America has so much impact on the rest of the world. And that's why when you go to other countries, they can tell you who the Secretary of State was 5 administrations ago, because what happens here impacts them. So I encourage people, tune out these morning shows that they got y'all convinced that millions of people tune into. The devil is a lie. They're not. So start, and even here, like tune into NLP every week. I feel like we break things down and keep it a buck with everybody in a way that is just, I think people are so hungry for. We're so exhausted with pretending. And to Andrew's point, this shit ain't normal. So let's stop treating it like it's normal, and let's have real, authentic conversation. And we do that here every week. And until they start having real, authentic conversation, they don't deserve our dollars or our views. With the exception, I got to say, of our girl, Joy Ann Reid, because Joy keeps it a buck every night, 7 p.m. MSNBC. So definitely tune in to Joy. But outside of that, I'm searching. I'm thirsty for people saying something real on the screen.
I don't know what you said that made me go, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. That's DJ Quick, y'all. Anyway, shout out to the West Coast, which is the best coast, as we round out this podcast. I mean, first of all, I'm in the South. I'm actually in the dirty. In the dirty, but and Andrew didn't even come see me. He was 35 minutes plane ride away. Tiff left me early, just rude.
I wish I didn't have been there.
And then I see.
You guys, before we end the show, I want to remind everyone to leave us a review and subscribe to Native Land Pod. We're available on all platforms and YouTube. We're all available. New episodes do drop every single Thursday. You can also follow us, and you should by now be following us on social media at Native Land Pod. We are Angela Rye, Tiffany Cross, and Andrew Gillum. Welcome home, y'all. There are 47 days only until
for us to tour
day.
around. 47 days for us to tour around, right?
Oh, we going on 47 tour?
Oh, yes, we are going on tour. We're going on tour. We about to get flued out, and we'll tell you guys where next time.
Welcome home, y'all.
Yeah, Jesus.
Welcome home.
Thank you for joining the natives. Intentional with the info on all of the latest. Rye, Gillum, and Cross connected to the statements that you leave on our socials. Thank you sincerely for the patience. Reason for your choice is clear. We're so grateful. Took the oath to execute roles. Yeah, faithful. Preserve, defend, and protect the truth, even if painful. Welcome home to all of the natives. We thank you.
Welcome home, y'all.
What's
Welcome
up,
home.
sis?
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.